Welcome to Heart in Hand, the Rangers podcast, the podcast that isn't going to fixate on one miss. This week on Heart in Hand, for fuck's sake, you were a yard out! Today's show is brought to you by Maitland & Co, solicitors and notaries. Now, of course, we hope that you never need to avail yourselves of legal services, but unfortunately life isn't like that. And Maitland & Co are specialists in criminal defence and road traffic law, and they come highly recommended from Heart in Hand. They cover all over Scotland and they deal with all types of criminal cases, including road traffic law. They appear in Justice of the Peace, Sheriff and High Courts. They are on call 24/7 because unfortunately you're never going to know when you're going to need a lawyer, and they are available 24/7 for police station interviews, prison visits. Legal aid is available, competitive rates if applicant is not eligible for legal aid, and first interview is free. Maitland & Co have represented fans charged under the offensive behaviour at football legislation. So, if you ever need legal counsel, the best place to go is Maitland & Co. Get in touch with them at info@maitlandandco.net. That's info@maitland, Maitland and co.net. 07714 615 845. That's info@maitlandandco.net. 07714 615 845 for all your criminal defence needs. Okay folks, welcome to Heart in Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name's David Edgar, I am your host, and I'm joined this week by two of our most erudite pundits. Joining me on the line from that there London is Mr. Andy McGowan.
Evening, David.
Did you manage to leave the city standing and not take your frustration out upon it?
I was actually quite glad to fly down this morning because it took me out the environment of bumping into people I don't want to bump into.
No,
so,
absolutely. I can. That's why I never leave the house. And joining us is I'm making a very handsome pod lineup tonight with the three of us. I would say it's Mr. Alexander Staff. Hello, Alex.
Hi there, David. How are we doing?
I've been better. I've been better, but equally, lads, I have been worse. And that is something that we will come to. If you've been living under a rock, then you might not be aware that Rangers lost 3-2 to Celtic yesterday, but I think pretty much everyone listening to this show will be. In an up and down match. Rangers took the lead after 2 minutes. Wonderful bit of play by Josh Windass, closed down the error-prone Dedrick Boyata, won the ball off him, sprinted clear and smashed it into the net to give Rangers the lead. Celtic come back into it with Tom Rogic, who batted forward and hit a screamer from about 20 yards. In the process, unfortunately, his follow-through caught David Bates, who had to go off injured. Rangers recovered, and I thought in the first half were looking dangerous every time we attacked. The Celtic defence was at 6s and 7s, and eventually got back into the lead with a goal from Daniel Candeias, close-range shot. After more confusion in the Celtic box, he smashed it into the net. But after that, I thought Rangers maybe sat back a little bit too much, invited some pressure. Celtic had a series of corners, but just when it looked as though we were going to get in at half time, a long ball over the top was caught out of defence. Dembele's got in, Wes has come out and he's lobbed it over him for 2 each. Into the second half, Celtic lose Simunovic to a red card for an elbow in Morelos, which we can touch upon in a minute, but I thought was I thought it was an absolute stonewall red card. I think he's going to look at him first before he's throwing out the arm. And then a strange thing happens. Rangers, for me, lads, instead of continuing to do what they had been doing and what they had been doing for a number of weeks, and I'll start with you, Alex. It was, I feel, and this is just my theory, so you can, shoot me down about it. I felt at that point Rangers players became almost paralysed by indecision, because it was then that it almost seemed to jump into their mind like, right, we have to go and, we better go and win this now, as opposed to just battling, just playing the game that was in front of them. I thought that they allowed other things to creep into their mind. they stopped doing. They stopped looking so incisive. Celtic, of course, reorganised and sat back, tried to hit the break, which they did do with their substitute Edouard. A disastrous goal for Rangers to lose. With so many opportunities to clear it. We then had three guys with the opportunity to show him down the line, but instead all just wandered away and let him turn inside, where he's again good finish. And Rangers never really, I think, managed to put that. We had a lot of the ball, but I don't think we exactly had their keeper making tons of saves. Even at that, we absolutely should have got a draw, because Josh Windass wriggles clear, hits a shot, the keeper saves, it falls to Alfredo Morelos, literally a couple of yards, but he somehow manages to hit the post rather than put it into the empty net, and that really was that. Alex, as I say, I felt that the sending off, in a way, because obviously, you know, if you're playing up against 10 men, you should have the advantage. But I thought our players, as I say, they stopped playing the game that was in front of them. They stopped playing their man, they stopped playing the opposition, and then they started to play the occasion. And I think that we suffered for that.
Yes, to an extent. I think indecision is going to be the word of the day, I think, because not only did we have a bit of that, they created some of that with the substitution that they made when they brought Edouard on, actually. Leaving the two up top started to leave some decisions for our fullbacks that they weren't too sure on how to play that, you know. But ultimately, if you look at the chances we were making in the first half, almost all of them were coming from winning the ball and playing it up the park quickly and hitting Celtic on the break. So when they went down to 10 men and they decided to sit in, we had to do something that was completely different. And we've seen all season that, you know, as much as we've got a better squad for it now, we've seen all season that when teams sit in, we struggle a little bit. And this was the strongest team we're going to play, sitting in and trying to make things difficult for us. So I think, as much as I agree, Rangers' indecision cost them, I think it was if Celtic hadn't went down to 10 men, they don't play that way, and we've probably got more of a chance of winning it.
I also think that if Celtic don't go down to 10 men, that as I was mentioning there, Andy, that I think that if they score and go 3-2, I don't think, given what I've seen recently, our lads panic the way that they did. Whereas I think when they went 3-2 down to 10 men, you could almost see them going, oh fuck, if we lose this from here. And like I say, I thought that instead of, I keep saying this, but they stopped playing the match and they started to play the occasion, and they started to play, if you like, all the stuff that was going on, rather than just competing against their man. And even Graeme Murty, Andy, said they stopped doing the things that we want them to do that they're good at, which is quick pass and working through the defence. We started to put in crosses. As Alex said, the full-backs stopped really knowing whether they should stay back, go forward, whatever, and started just pinging the ball in from deep, which if you're got men behind the ball and you've got 10 men, you love, because you just need to nod it away, and that's what they did. And we stopped doing the things that I think have made us look like a decent side the last few weeks.
Yeah, it was a combination of football and decisions and mentality for me, because when Sabunovic gets sent off, obviously I thought to myself, here we go, we're in here. But about 2 minutes later I thought, Christ, what a disaster it's going to be if we don't actually win this now. And it's that kind of psychological fear that can paralyse you. Now,
I think it did.
Aye, and what we've got, and we often forget, is that overall we have a young team, and we don't have what Celtic have, which is a long-term self-belief and confidence built up over a long period. We've had a good run, but it's only been 9-10 games, and as good as that is, that's very, very different from a team that's went on and won things and came from behind time and time again. We're not there yet, but it will come. So I thought that when the sending off happened, I think Rodgers' decision to keep 3 at the back and 2 up front was because we only had 2 men in the middle of the park, to be honest. He was able to do that because he had a superiority in the middle of the park numbers-wise, and even with a man sent off, he was able to keep that. And we can touch on that later on about our own formation. But I thought it was a combination of, we never got to grips with what they did immediately after their sending off, never took advantage of it, and we don't have the mentality to actually say, right, let's go in and win this. I think we actually, for lack of a better word, shat it. And what we don't have is we don't have players that can pick the rest of the team by the scruff of the neck and say, right, let's go, let's do this. We've not got a Goff, we've not got a Barry Ferguson, we've not got somebody that can actually direct the entire team and affect other players' mentalities. This kind of gritted teeth and pumped fist, if you like. We don't have it. And I don't know how you get that into a team. Do you sign a player like that? I don't think they grow on trees.
No.
But it was really disappointing because we should have drew, right? I think before we went behind, we were playing with a bit of freedom. I think there was not much expected. And the turning point for me was when we were 2-1 up and we flashed, Morelos caught loose on the byline, flashed the ball right across the front of goal, and as usual we had a couple of guys just inches away from it. If that had went in, we're 3-1 up, 10 minutes for half time, I think we would have cruised it from there on. But obviously we know what happened after.
I was a little disappointed, Alex, both times in the first half, that after getting the goal we kind of retreated a little bit, and I didn't get it because I think that it was almost like when Celtic equalised the first time, the Rangers players went all right and went on the front foot, and I was really impressed by it. It was like, we're going to get this lead back, we're not doing the same script we've done before, and I was really impressed. And yet at 2-1, they then did it again. They then sat back a little bit. And one of my concerns, and I've mentioned it before, is that I think Bruno Alves, who did all right apart from at the third goal, but you could also say the second, but I thought in the air he was good. But I think he sits very deep. And when Bates went off and Cardoso came on, Cardoso basically follows, in my opinion, just follows Alves like a puppy. And I thought then that they pulled us deep and Celtic just sat on top of us for really the last 15 minutes of the first half. And yeah, we might have got away with it a few seconds more, but we didn't. And it's a concern for me that I think Alves does pull us very deep.
Yeah, I think it's worth remembering though that both in the case of Alves and Cardoso, it's two centre halves that haven't played an awful lot of football recently. So
point counterpoint. David Bates came in at New Year, hadn't played a lot of football previously.
He'd been starting games and such, like he was still involved, More, I'd say he certainly played more than Alves has since then.
Fair dues.
At that point, and Cardoso's had a couple of appearances off the bench at most, I think. It's in fact since the turn of the year, I'm not even sure it's been as much as that. So I think it's natural for defenders when they're not feeling their sharpest to sit a bit deeper. Bruno Alves is now at an age where he's not at his sharpest, so he naturally sits a bit deeper. I do take that point. I think that for me, ultimately, games like that are won or lost in midfield. I don't think we ever, at any point in the game, looked as though we were winning the midfield battle. We were very good at turning their defence, with a kind of direct ball or something into the channels. At no point did I think Goss and Docherty are bossing this. I think ultimately that was your issue. They seem to be a bit... We've spoken about this before with Goss and Docherty. They're not naturally defensive minded. And we don't have anyone at the moment in the squad because of injuries that can play in midfield. So they seem to be kind of stuck between, okay, what do I do about this guy standing right behind me, Rogic, or do I go and press Brown and Cham because that's going to get us somewhere? They seem to be sort of stuck between that, and it just kind of let Celtic get the initiative when we scored, because they would obviously come out and look to take it back, and that it was that area I thought was probably a bit more of an issue. Defenders are going to drop deep if you're not winning the ball in the middle of the park,
Well, Alex has opened up, I think, the key issues here, and everything flows from what he just said there, which is about formation, which leads to personnel, which leads to players. So, Andy, I think, and we all have that, we know this from our wee Podders WhatsApp group, but we know this from social media, listening to the punters that get in touch with us, from our friends. We know that there's the bit of debate about what Josh Windass does or doesn't do. Now, I think Windass is an asset. I like him. I think that he brings something to the side that other players don't. And I'm not saying that you never pick him. You use him. There's certain games, absolutely you use him. But I wonder if there's a shout, especially with the semi-final coming up, for saying, Josh, you're a great player, you're great at what you do. However, this match calls for us to need an extra body in midfield, who's more of a midfielder. And if, say for instance, McCrory or Dorrans was fit, you put them in alongside Goss and Docherty. I don't know if he's quite good enough, and I know Alex has got feelings on this, I'll bring him in afterwards, but I'm not sure he's quite good enough to say we accept that you're going to do one or two brilliant things, which he did yesterday. He scored the goal and he set up, if you like, what should have been the equaliser at 3 each. But I wonder if we can then justify having somebody who, with the best will in the world for the other 89 minutes, doesn't make that valuable a contribution.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things there. The first one is that, to all intents and purposes, we have now built that team around Windass. I don't think there's any kind of dispute about that. He is absolutely integral to the way we play and how we set up. And secondly, Murty, for right or wrong, is a wee bit of a slave to that formation. And I can understand why, because it's done well for us. We're our top goal scorers in the league for a start, and that's largely due to the form we've had since Murty took over and since the transfer window. And it gets the best out of the likes of Murphy, the two fullbacks, Candace, that kind of thing. So I can see why he went into the game sticking by the formation that's done us reasonably well. But by the same token, to my eyes, right, and I'm interested in your views, teams can see how to set up against that, because we've seen Kilmarnock, we've seen St Johnstone, I think Hamilton might have done it. They've went kind of three at the back, giving them an extra man in the middle of the park, and it tells at times, and it's really only a matter of then hoping that the quality comes through. So, to one aspect, Murty's been brave, going back out, playing Celtic with that formation, because you're basically going toe-to-toe to him, whereas if we hark back to likes of Walter, he would have brought in somebody a wee bit more solid, like the Craig Moore at Parkhead, stuff like that. He'd have made the team harder to beat first and foremost, whereas Murty's stuck by his beliefs and put his faith in Windass. Now, personally speaking, and I do not want this to be construed as a Windass bashing.
No,
because he has changed my opinion on him. Right, we've spoken about this many times on the pod about how we thought of him at the start of the season compared to now.
Me too, 100%.
Most definitely an asset. He's contributing greatly to the team. However, he's playing in a position where, as we've said before, is striker come midfielder, and the midfielder part is pretty much non-existent, because he cannot even get close to putting a foot in to the point where it's a waste of time. And that left Goss and Docherty severely exposed on Sunday. And I think it then showed up Goss that he's not as defensively minded, and he's not as strong in a tackle or in his man-to-man combat. He's not as good as he needs to be for a kind of two-man midfield. So a lot of the time, Josh disappears out the game and contributes nothing, right? Whereas if he had a Naismith or something like that, he would still be harrying, he'd still be putting his foot in, he would still be making himself a nuisance, which is never ever going to be Windass's game. So I raised the question with a couple of my pals on Sunday. I says, right, you've built the team in Windass, he's integral, we can see why it works, because it's a good way to play, it's difficult to defend against when it goes right. Could we do better? Could we get a better player than Josh Windass in that same position? It just gives us that wee bit extra, and that's a big question, because
you said it yourself earlier, they don't grow in trees.
No, but if you're talking about a £3.5 million player, right, that's what Windass was being touted as, a potential worth of £3.5 million or whatever it was. Look what we've just picked up for £1 million in Jamie Murphy, or 600 grand in Craig Docherty, or 600 grand for Cummins if he stays. There is with proper scouting, there are players that could play in that position and give you the same or more, right? But listen, we've got to deal with what we've got just now, and Windass is an asset, but I think for the semi-final we've got to seriously look at changing it up a wee bit. I mean, if you played Cummins in that position, do you think we'd be any worse off?
No, but again, and Alex, I'm interested here in your view, because I know that you do really like Windass, and like me, I would say, a fan of what he brings. Now, I probably would say I'm a wee bit more, view him a wee bit more fondly than you do there, Andy. I think that, again, you still... No, because I think you do still need to look at what he did contribute yesterday, which was a goal, which was, should have been the other. And these are big moments in Old Firm matches, and how often have we talked about we need guys that can do the big moment, and he did do that. But then, equally, I get your point, and Alex, I think you even touched on it yourself earlier, where you said we've got these two who... A, it means we lose the extra man, and B, neither of them are, although they have a range of strength, neither of them are, defensive minded. So is there a case for saying, look, Josh, 9 out of 10 games you're absolutely going to play in, but for this one we need something that you just can't bring at the moment? And yes, it maybe means sacrificing some of that spark, but overall it's to the benefit of the team.
There's nothing wrong with that argument. I agree with that. It's similar, obviously a different style of player, but it's similar to Walter's days, where he would go, right, Boydie, there's no point in playing you in this one, because you're going to contribute nothing, so you just sit your arse in the European games and in the Celtic games, you just sit on that bench for me, and we'll get somebody in to do a specific job.
Yeah,
I suppose it's similar to that in many respects. I think, I tell you what, after yesterday and the way that we hurt Celtic on the break in the first half, and you would imagine that's the way, to get to them, because they're going to come out and play. They would have still been coming out to play if we were 2-1 up and they went down to 10 men, or they'd stayed with 11 men at 2 each. They would have still been out looking to attack us. There'd still been space in behind them to hit. So you imagine they're going to play that way. There's a slight temptation to think that a front three of Murphy, Candace and Windass would be effective against them, given especially as well how much it seems that Morelos has got the Chris Boyd jinx and he just can't score against them.
Alex, counterintuitively, and this is with hindsight, so I'm not in any way saying Graeme Murty got this wrong, because nobody would have thought it. I'm just saying the way it panned out and knowing what we know now, counterintuitively, was the right substitution then taking off Windass and putting on a midfielder, as daft as that sounds?
Do you know what? Yeah, I was actually going to bring this up. Maybe not Windass, I don't know, maybe it could have been, but counterintuitively, as strange as it sounds, and as much as the fans would have went...
Oh, but that's why it wouldn't have happened. Yeah, I'm not saying he should have done it, because the place would have went fucking barmy if he had.
Yeah, we would have. But there was an argument for more players starting from a deeper position. For me, what happened when they went down to 10 men and they went deep was that we ended up crowding ourselves out in many respects. We brought on Cummings. Our fullbacks were getting the ball from a standing start high up the pitch when they were getting there. Our wingers were standing still when they were getting the ball. It totally killed the dynamic play completely. And it's no coincidence that at 3-2, our best chance comes from Windass coming from deep, bit of link-up play. He's the one busting into the box and getting the shot away. And Morelos obviously should have tapped that in. And it came from a runner from a deeper position, because that's the one that's hardest to stop. We sort of played into their hands by having so many forwards on the park, all looking to play high up the pitch, and not enough runners from deep. So yes, counterintuitively, I know it sounds daft, but there may have been a case for another midfielder coming in, a Holt or Halliday that were on the bench, who could have been making runs from deeper and giving them more to think about. Who knows? As you say, it's with hindsight. So
yeah, that is with hindsight.
It's all conjecture as well,
Yeah, because if he'd done that, I would have been going, what the hell are you doing? So no, I'm certainly not going to have a go at Graeme Murty for that. Andy, what's your thoughts then on what Alex and I were?
I was actually expecting Windass to come off, I'll be honest with you, because I thought he he took off Goss. Right, Goss wasn't having a good game at all.
No.
He wasn't getting his passing going. He wasn't winning tackles. There was nothing really going for him at all. But it kind of puzzled me that he took Goss off and then moved Windass kind of further back. And I know what you're saying there. He really scored the goal when he burst through, but he was generally playing deeper, taking the balls off the centre half and the goalkeeper on some occasions. And we spoke about character earlier on and grit and everything that you can associate with famous victories against Celtic. I thought Josh he wasn't up to that kind of driving force to take the team forward. Murty obviously has a lot of faith in him, and that's fine, and it's admirable to be so behind a player at such a young age. And I did see him turn into enclosure at one point when I think it was a free kick or something that he took and it went over the bar. He turned to the enclosure to tell them to encourage him as opposed to moan and groan. But I just felt it was a lot of responsibility for a boy that I don't mean to be harsh. He's the last guy I would turn to at 11 when the chips are down. And I don't know if that sounds harsh to you guys, but that's my take on things. That his temperament when things go, when the going gets tough, I don't know if he's up to what we would call a ranger just yet.
No, I know what you mean. And for me, he's a finishing touches guy. He's not a guy that helps you build the house. He's a guy that comes and decorates it. I think would be how I'd put that. It's a conundrum. And speaking of which, here's another one. Alfredo Morelos, who I thought in the first half absolutely ragdolled their centre halves. I thought he was everything I like in a striker, which is he was busy, he was physical, he was a handful, he caused them bother. They didn't know whether to go with him, whether to drop in. He as my dad would say, he rumbled them up. He had a really good 45 minutes. He did exactly what I like. But that's not what people are going to remember from this game again. And I don't really know if you can get around that. But what I will say is he looked absolutely physically and mentally shattered by that miss. And I think that the people at the club this week, the coaching staff, are going to have a job in their hands, because he wears his heart on his sleeve. And I don't think he quite has the McCoy's desk or even the Cummings-esque, I missed this one but I'll score the next one. And I thought the first miss, although it was good defending and a good save and he did hit the target, but I thought the first miss weighed heavily on him, and that's something I think he absolutely has to eradicate from his game, because I think not only can we see it, the opposition can see it, and he carries a miss on with him at times that he shouldn't, but it becomes a thing. And unfortunately, you said it earlier, the Boyd comparison is very good. It's a thing until he buries a chance and buries that idea.
It is, sadly, yeah. And you're right, take away the sitter, because the first chance was a good chance, but I wouldn't call it a great chance.
No, I agree.
You see those ones saved probably more often than scored, actually, yes, at that sort of angle, which makes Windass's goal, which was a similar sort of angle, all the more impressive. But yeah, there is a frustration with him at times. I'm not quite as concerned by it. I think he still tends to have a good game, even when he's missing chances. He still tends to contribute. It's very rare that he does absolutely nothing for us. Take away that sitter, he actually had a pretty damn good game.
Yes, he did.
But even he's not going to remember that. That's part of the issue. The fans aren't going to remember it, or many fans aren't, especially the ones whose focus is how we do against Celtic. There's many fans like that. That's just the nature of a big club. So he's now had 2 games in a row where he's missed the sitters. You've got idiots like Bill Leckie trying to make a name for himself off the back of that. But he needs that goal. But I actually thought first half, I thought he was brilliant. I really did. Yeah. He really gave them. Boyata's a huge boy, and he could not deal with the way Morelos was backing into him or playing off him. He was consistent. He ripped him to shreds, and
He did.
it's just it's really sickening that a pretty good 90 minutes is now going to be remembered for that. You know.
At one point,
strikers are judged on though.
At one point, yeah, true. At one point in the first half, Boyata tried to pass him on to Ayer, and Ayer said no, which I think tells you how well he was doing. That Ayer was like, "Nah, he's making an arse out of you. I don't want any part of that." And he was doing all the stuff we like about him, but it's almost, if you like, 180 from the Windass issue, that Windass has done nothing for 89 minutes but scored a goal and should have set one up. Alfie's done great for most of it, but the two big moments he's fluffed. If we could get those two to have a baby, we would have one hell of a striker.
Well, I thought. If he scores that goal, then we're talking about him as man of the match. To be honest, I thought it was really fantastic. The first half he ran them ragged. He was taking players on. He was getting to the byline. It was fantastic. But as you say, Alex, it's the goals that count, and I have no concerns about him. I've got to be honest. He seems to me be a dogged wee character, and he's definitely got hunger. You can see that in his play. I'm not saying he's like Luis Suarez, right, but it's the same kind of street fighter mentality. You can see him scrapping with somebody if he really had to. I don't think it'll get him down. I don't think we should drop him. I don't think it'll do him any good. I think you just keep on playing, and because if you keep on playing, he will score goals and he'll get through it. And I said, who did we play the week before? But he missed a couple of he missed a couple of chances there as well. And I said, well, listen, we forget he's 21. But I mean, it was a bad miss on Sunday, and the magnitude of the game and the impact it had in the final score made it all the worse. But it's one of those things. We all know strikers that have been like that, and you've just got to get your head down and keep going. He's too good a player to make it an issue in our party anyway.
What I will say is, a guy who leaves his home in Colombia to go to Finland and then Scotland to chase his dream has balls. You know, so absolutely, I think that there's some there. Before we get back to the game, I do want to touch upon this, Alex. The abuse that he gets from Leckie, I think, is genuinely sickening. I think it's appalling at best. At best, through a very generous reading of it, it's xenophobic. At worst, it's a hell of a lot darker, and I genuinely it sickens me. I find it appalling.
It's very strange that, you know, a game that Scottish football's on his knees. It needs talking up. It needs, you know, there's a young guy, as you say, young talented guy, hungry guy, who's deemed Scottish football good enough to propel his career forward. And, you know, his take on this is, you know, if he can make it, anybody can. And Rangers fans are brainwashed into thinking he's a good player. And those idiots fell for the £8 million China bid line. Ha ha ha. You know, it's just
which is paper reported, incidentally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, happy to do so they could sell some more there, weren't they? I think he's just. Is he now that irrelevant?
No, he's not. No. None of them.
I think he's a strange guy. He's a really strange guy. He thinks he's Hugh McElvany. He's not even Ian Archer.
No.
He's a fucking dick.
No, he is. He's just an absolute fucking wank. Let's not forget, this cunt's hobbies are long walks in the rain, wearing Converse and a smart shirt. Right, so, do you know what I mean? No wonder his wife left him, cunt. Anyway, we'll get back to far more important matters. And namely, of course, the game. And we're talking here, lads, tactical breakdowns, you know, mistakes as forward, can we fit this guy together? Even at that, you can't lose goals, Andy, the quality that we lost, because that's just, you're not going to get anywhere if you're losing, particularly the second and third, which were just nightmarish. Yes, you can Celtic all three good finishes, but the second and third goals were really, really poor from our point of view.
Yeah, it's. I'm going to say a couple of things that my fellow Bears might not like to hear, but if I'm probably not privileged enough to be on this podcast, and there's no point not saying it. Celtic are a good team, right? I think.
Fucking typical. Even Alex wouldn't say that publicly.
I might have.
But publicly.
I think we've got to, and I'm quite good at this, and Alex, you're quite good at this as well. He's taking a big step back and looking at things in not even the whole, but like a 5-6 year perspective, right? The Celtic have got a pretty good squad, an exceptional squad by Scottish standards, right? That's why they are where they are. We are roughly where I thought we would be at this stage in the recovery, right? And I always thought, if we go back, I mean, we're talking about the nuances and the minutiae of a 90-minute game, and that's natural, right? And in a game, we can sit down and say, right, we should have won that, and we should have, or we should have drew it. But if we look at it in the context of a season or seasons and the whole thing that we went through, we're roughly where we should be. Because I'm a money man, right? I always look at accounts, because if you look at any league through the world, if there's a team playing above their station financially, it's the exception rather than the rule. And we will not be able, in my mind, to compete with Celtic as we used to compete and win things and be dominant until the turnover of the park is back to roughly where it was. Because what we've got is we've been severely handicapped, and at the same time Celtic have been supercharged because they've had a more or less a monopoly on the Champions League money when it's never been more lucrative. And with, this is my opinion, right? We simply cannot talk about Rangers and how we compete against Celtic without taking that at least into consideration a wee bit. Their turnover at last books was 90 million. Our turnover at our last books was 30 million. We've got a turnover for we've got a wages of roughly 36% ratio, right? That's very, very low. So we had a wage bill of about £11 million. I think it'll be a touch higher now. I think it'll be closer to 15. Celtic's is, they don't actually declare it, but it's going to be about 2.5-3 times that. You've seen the benches on Saturday, and the first thing I said when I went down to the ground and seen the teams, I said to the guy beside me, I says, they've got a very strong bench, and it actually proved that, didn't it? They brought in a guy that won them the game.
Yeah.
So you've got to take that into consideration. And although I always thought that the easier part was getting back up to the top league, the hard part was always going to be our support naturally stomaching defeats and occasional horsings for Celtic, and being able to ride that emotionally, psychologically, and keep their eye on the prize, which is back to health, full recovery, winning the league. And we're getting there. If you've got the fundamentals in place, you have to have some conviction at some point. And this is where I still think Murty's going to get a job. The same with feeling a big bearing on it, but I still think we have the fundamentals in place just now. We've got a decent director of football, we've got a decent style of play, we seem to be looking at the right types of players attacking football that can all play the football that like to watch. I think we need to come out games like yesterday and say, well, do you know what, that hurts, it's a stinger, it's a gutter. However, you've got to keep the chin up, you've got to keep moving forward, there's nothing else for it.
No, I wouldn't disagree with that. Alex, I'm going to kind of maybe use you to make a point, but, based off sort of one of my personal sort of bugbears. I think a lot of our fans, and I've spoken about this on this show numerous times, are far too critical of David Bates, and I think that he doesn't get given the benefit of the doubt that other centre halves at the club do for some reason. I thought that his absence yesterday after he went off did affect us and did affect the game, and I think that you'll never know this, obviously, it's just you either believe this or you don't, so I can't prove this to anyone, but I felt that we missed him yesterday.
We did, yeah. Not just for his defending ability, but as I say, just for someone who earlier on, as I mentioned, Cardoso and Alves don't have a lot of football in them of late, so even in that respect we missed Bates as well, just for a bit of stability at the back. I think if it's Bates in the situation with Dembele that Cardoso was in at the second goal, I don't think he gets out muscled quite as easily. Now, I'm not fully on board with this whole idea that Cardoso's weak and easily bullied and all that sort of stuff. Dembele's a big strong boy and he does it to most defenders, right? And I get that Cardoso has some weaknesses that way. I just think that Bates would have probably been a little bit better at that. He's also a little bit quicker. So, there's a chance he gets on the right side rather than being a yard behind it. It did make a difference. I'd like to just go back, because ultimately the overall point is, the defending, and we can't really be letting in. You can't let in 3 goals like that. Even the first goal had a couple of issues in the way that Rogic was able to get the space that he did. Can't let in 3 goals like that and expect to win a game. You can barely expect to draw one when you're letting in 3 goals like that. I think ultimately Andy's point is worth bearing in mind. But we're up against a good team. We've made some big mistakes. Good teams punish you when you do that. There's other games this season where we'll make similar mistakes, and the quality of player just isn't there to.
Oh, because it was 3 good finishes. Terrible mistakes, but 3 good finishes.
Definitely, yeah, and there will be, and I'm sure if we look back, you'll see other mistakes that we've made this season in games where it's comparatively possibly even worse, but the players just not taking advantage of it. And that was the biggest difference for me. And this is ironic coming from me, the guy who does the pre-match pods and loves guesting on the tactics pods and all that. There's a slight danger of over-analysing this one. I think this was a game of individual mistakes, and unfortunately we made a bit more than they did, and we got punished for it. I do think it was more down to that in that 90 minutes. Andy's point, the broader point is well worth taking into consideration. You mentioned it yourself, David, as well in the past. This is a 2 or 3 month Graeme Murty project against a 4 or 5 year Celtic project. There was only 3 players Celtic started yesterday that Brendan Rodgers has signed in his time there. One of them, Scott Bain, wouldn't have been playing if Craig Gordon or Doris De Vries was fit. Well, De Vries was a signing as well, but if Craig Gordon's fit, one of them doesn't play. There's a good chance he only starts in Cham and Dembele at his own signings. So the rest of that team's got years of experience together that we just don't have at the moment. So to actually have given them the game that we did, and to still come away with a feeling of we're not actually as far away as we thought.
No.
It was probably more of an achievement than it feels like in the immediate aftermath,
Yeah, and I think you see by the way that they've celebrated it and by the way that they have gone on today. See, Celtic fans are fantastic for showing you what they actually think, even though they're telling you something else. And their utter glee is because we're closer to them than they had expected. Certainly, I wouldn't have blamed them if they thought that after the first game of the season. And that leads me on to my next point, Andy, that I said this yesterday and I stick by it. Anyone who watched our first game against them this season and watched that yesterday and doesn't think we've made progress, I'll have to agree to disagree with. Yes, we still lost, and a defeat is a defeat, but I think that's quite a binary way of looking at it. I think that's overly simplistic. There's no doubt that we give Celtic a tougher game. There's no doubt that Celtic know they're going to have a tougher game in a couple of weeks, because the really encouraging thing for me, and yeah, I'm a natural optimist and I look to take encouraging signs out of it. I'm not quite Warburton-esque on it. I don't close my eyes to the bad points, but it wasn't a case of, well, we played as well as we could and still couldn't beat them. I thought we could do better, and the manager certainly thought we could do better. There has been progress made, or am I deluding myself?
No, undoubtedly there's been progress, David. I don't think anybody can argue with that. And that is where I mentioned in my wee mini rant 5 minutes ago, it's where we are just now is where I thought we would be at this stage in the game. How many points did we finish off from last year? 36 or something?
Yeah.
It was a lot of points. I don't think we
even want to talk about it.
Aye. So we're now within 9 points with a game in hands, right? That alone is an improvement. We're starting to solidify, touchwood, the second spot, which is something that we thought would have been done kind of very, very easily. And again, it comes down to steady but sure progress. And I mean, you're talking about the benches there. You're talking about Bates going off. If we have a better bench, when somebody better than Cardoso comes off the bench to replace Bates. If we have a better bench than somebody, we've got other options other than taking Goss off and messing about with things and moving people about. The strength and depth just isn't quite there compared to Celtic. Now, I quite understand that getting beat off Celtic, being second to Celtic at anything is unacceptable at Rangers, and believe me, that's the way it should be, and we should be held to the highest of standards regardless of our financial situation, regardless of anything at all. However, it's not realistic, and we've got to make sure that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater because we got beat off Celtic and we get a wee bit hysterical and angry and look for scapegoats and abandon, as I call them, the fundamentals which we are starting to get in place on and off the park.
Alex, Andy there spoke about that we're where he kind of roughly expected us to be, and I'd sort of agree with that, but with one caveat, which is I didn't expect us to be there. At the start of the season, yes. December, no, because we looked a million miles off that. And the progress that I spoke about, I think, has been almost entirely made in the post-Christmas period. And I think that's where Rangers' improvement really has been, because up to that, we were capable on the odd day of, a good result, but we were equally capable of a St Johnstone at home style performance, and you never knew what you were going to get. Whereas now, I think that there's a justifiable confidence that Rangers can go out and beat these teams. Against that, there is the argument that, yes, we've been knocking off the smaller teams, the teams we would expect to knock off, but that's now Hibs at Ibrox, Celtic, no points, and that it's almost like there's this grey area. It would be nice if it was black and white, that Murty was either ideal for the job or a complete, no-hoper. And there's not. There's evidence for both arguments, and I think that's what makes it difficult. And I want to talk to you two guys about this, because I know that sometimes I may give the impression that I have the answer to everything, and on most things I do. But there are things, I am arrogant, but I'm not arrogant enough to not take the opinions of people I trust on issues that I admit I need to think about, and I don't know. And where this leaves Graeme Murty, I'm not entirely sure. So I want to hear what you guys think of this, because I do see progress. I do think we're much better to watch. I think the way he has the team both playing and looking and competing is a lot better. I think that he's a talented manager and will develop into a talented manager. Against that, there are things that he gets wrong, and I think substitutions, and yesterday was another case in point of that. Taking into account what Andy said, though, there's also the weak bench. So, there's so many grey areas with this guy that I really don't know. What I will say is I felt, this time last week, that he had to win either this game or the semi-final to get the job, and I still believe that. But what are your thoughts on this? Guide me. Help clear this up for me, Alex.
My thought, twofold. Firstly, we need to be, and I'm not saying you weren't doing this, it's just in general, we need to be fair about our assessment of Murty and understand where he actually is, So yes, it's fair to bring up the Hibs game and the Celtic game. For me, we actually performed pretty well for a good chunk of the Hibs game, let's be honest, at least the second half, if not a little bit more than that. And I don't think the performance was one that, as you say, we could have been better, but I don't think people were gutted about the performance or angry about the performance yesterday. We were frustrated at missing what looked like a really good opportunity to get the win. So even in these two defeats since January, there's been some signs of progress. I know that sounds crazy, but there you go. It wasn't exactly the St Johnstone or Hamilton at home or anything like that.
No.
And against good teams as well, So that again adds to this grey area. So firstly, let's just be fair as to where Murty is. For me, we were willing to spend £1 million in compensation at least. Rumours of a little bit more than that for Derek McInnes, plus whatever wage he would have been on. I'm not entirely convinced Derek McInnes would have a better record from January than Graeme Murty's got.
No, I don't think so either.
I don't think he would have.
Well, he certainly wouldn't have beat Celtic.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you take his time in Aberdeen so far, the bigger matches are the ones that
he doesn't do that.
Say he's not good at.
Yeah.
So I'm not convinced. So maybe Graeme Murty's around a Derek McInnes level manager. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's been generous. Obviously, McInnes has got a longer CV, but
I don't think so. I think that's fair.
It could be round about there. So the question then becomes the second part of my point, and the managerial position. This is something that football clubs, probably more so in the UK than in Europe, the football clubs seem to be a bit precious about. They never seem to make a change from a position of strength. The best example I can think of was when Pochettino came into Southampton. Yeah. If you remember, it was Adkins he replaced, wasn't it?
Yes, and everyone went fucking tonto.
Everyone went mental because everybody thought Adkins was doing a great job, and he wasn't like doing poorly. It wasn't the sort of replacement that normally happens. But Pochettino took Southampton from good to very good. You know, they've never really been quite as good since he left, and that's understandable. He's a top manager. Southampton looked at it and went, well, we've got a good manager here, but here's a great one. We can get him now. Let's go and get him. That's the way a managerial position should be looked at. It should be looked at as a player position. Daniel Candeas, I love the guy. I think he's great. He's done a great job for us, and he'll probably finish the season as one of our top players. But if it turns out there's a better right-sided midfielder out there in the summer, and we have a chance to sign him, we sign him.
Yeah,
you know. I think this is the same for the managerial position. If we can attract somebody better than Murty, as long as we are fair as to what Murty's level is, then for progress' sake, you kind of got to say, do it. You know, you can't really let that sort of traditional thinking or any sort of sympathy get in the way. You know, to me anyway, because you wouldn't do it with a player. You know, Graeme Murty wouldn't do it with a player. If he was offered a cracking player, he's going to replace one of the guys he's got in his squad with him. He would do it. You know, and I think a managerial position has to be treated like that. So for me, it's about, let's see where Murty actually is, and I think we'll have to wait to the end of the season to fully judge that. And then, well, who's actually out there? Who is available to us? And is this the best we can do? And I think the people who say we can do better, as long as you can prove that, I think they're right.
I think that's an absolutely brilliant point, and I think you're spot on that there's no point making a replacement to make a replacement to get in a bigger name in inverted commas manager for the sake of it, but equally if you can get a better manager then it would be negligent not to. So no, I thank you. I think that is a crack. You have cleared something up for me. Well done, Alex. Andy, your thoughts on Murty's future?
No, I agree with a lot with what Alex has said, and I'll try not to just repeat it with different words, but well, and I've said this before, Murty is on the longest job interview in history, and it's a wee bit unfair on him because I think if he was another manager that we'd appointed on a 2 or 3 year contract, I don't think we'd be talking about whether they'd be here or not next year. They would be here because we would be kind of signalling towards the good things that have happened. If you had a kind of evaluation of his key performance, the things he gets measured against, recruitment along with the director of football has worked.
Yes.
Team harmony, style of play, by and large results. Okay, I know we've had Hearts and Hibs and Celtic, of course, but by and large we've won games with a bit of style as well. I still think that yesterday's kind of hurt him a wee bit because I think if he'd won yesterday then it'd have been a stick on. So there is a far greater weight on the semi-final now as far as Murty getting a job. But Alex has hit the nail on the head. He's only as good as who else we've got as an alternative. And I think way back with Kishinya, I said, if we get rid of this guy, we have got a problem, because who do you bring in? Because we've more or less said that this guy that comes in, the next manager of Rangers, has to be of a British or British background and know the kind of football that's played here. And there is nobody, to my mind, unless somebody wants to tell me, that is jumping out as an outstanding candidate for the Rangers job. And that is the problem you've got, is that if you don't go with Murty, then the alternative needs to be able to do what he has just done and more. And I think Murty's done a very good job. I think he's done everything that's asked of him, and I think you can say about his substitutions yesterday, right? You can say that about more than yesterday. A couple of games before, we've all kind of questioned that he's either taking too long or made the wrong substitutions. He shows a lot of faith in the players on the park, and I don't think they're quite up to it. And it goes back to what we're talking at the top of the programme. We were talking about character and leadership and stuff like that. and that only comes with better players and experience and becoming a wee bit more battle hardened. And you, Davey, have made a good point in the past about talking about up and coming players and how good it is to find them and nurture them and mould them in your own kind of fashion. And you likened Murty to that as well. As in, we might have just got a wee rough diamond here that could mature into a fantastic manager. And there will be Bears listening to this that are thinking, I don't want a manager cutting his teeth at Rangers, but it might be worth it. The semi-final, I think, will be pivotal.
Yeah, that's a huge thing for me. Is I do think Graeme Murty's a good manager, and I think he's going to develop into a really good manager. And do we have the patience to put up with 18 months of a guy making mistakes like he did yesterday? And I think he did. But do we have the patience for a guy making mistakes? And I personally would say that, yeah, I probably would. But I understand the real politic of the situation is that the support in the main probably wouldn't. And therefore, it's all right me saying we should do this, but I've got to be realistic about what is going to happen. And the fact is that the fans won't wear that, I think, long term. But it, like I say, it's such an intriguing situation, as happens with Rangers all the time. It's very rarely is anything particularly black and white. What is black and white, though, is the need to bounce back. And don't know about you lads, I was gutted that we didn't have a midweek fixture this week. It would have been, I think, ideal. But we've got Kilmarnock on Saturday. It will not be an easy game, but equally it's one I would expect us to win. And I think it's a pivotal game because good teams bounce back. And I have been impressed with the mentality of the Rangers team since Christmas. However, if one defeat throws them off their stride, Alex, then it's no use to us at all, and then that will reflect badly on the manager.
It would reflect badly on most of the squad who are starting to build up, a bit of goodwill from the fans as well. So, I mean, it can happen. We know it can happen. We've seen it with better Rangers squads than this, that a bad defeat in the next game, they're a bit flat and it doesn't quite work. What tended to go our way is that we had good enough players to drag us through a poor performance, I think they'll bounce back. I think we owe Kelly as well, I think we owe him a bit of doing.
Agreed.
In truth, not an easy thing to do. Since Steve Clark came in, he's certainly made a big difference there, but the one-each draw cost Kashinya his job. 95th minute nonsense, the 2-1 game, we were horrendous at Rugby Park. But one of those goals is Chris Boyd just sticking his foot in, hoping for the best. There's been a wee bit of bad luck with some of these two games against Kelly, and we owe them. So I would hope that, I don't know if you guys noticed at the end of the game yesterday, and there's a good chance you probably didn't. Me and my boys stay and tend to try and clap every Rangers player off the park. It's just a wee bit of daft tradition we've got. No particularly major reason for it.
It's not daft.
It's just one of those things. But at the end of the game, you had Alves and Cardoso and Tavernier, and I can't remember who the fourth player was. Might have been Jason Cummings, but I doubt it. They were just standing in the centre circle. Celtic fans are celebrating. Their players are doing their usual shit as they do whenever they get even a draw against us. And Alves is just directing things. I'd love to know exactly what he was saying, but it was almost as if these guys were just standing there going, soak this in a little bit, see how bad this feels. Just remember it, because we're going to take this going forward and we're going to turn it into this. It just, some players went straight down the tunnel, absolutely gutted. These guys seem to just take a little minute to dissect it there and then and sort of understand how it felt, because I think that's probably the most gutted. James Tavernier is now in our squad, one of the most experienced players we've got for Old Firm games. That just shows you how new a squad we've got, right? I think that's probably the most gutted he'll have come off the park after the defeat to them.
Because he'll have known that we blew it. I mean, but when we got blown off the park by them, it's heartbreaking. But there's not that, if you like, that pang of regret that, fuck, we blew that. And that was what I thought yesterday at the end of that match, was like, we let them off the hook. We should have got that win. And so it's a different type of gutted. It's like a gutted with an added side of frustration that comes in for a defeat like that. Andy, I think Alex has made a good point there again, that this is what good teams do, and we're wanting to develop into a good side, that you use the disappointments to ensure that you don't run into as many of them again. And the focus this week on the camp should be, can't wait to get back into this, and we're going to start putting it right, starting with Kelly on Saturday.
It's far harder to use that kind of motivation and the kind of the pain that I felt on Sunday. It's far harder to take that into the next game if you don't believe that you're a good team. And I think in the past, I think our players knew deep down they weren't in a good team that was capable of winning any game that they wanted to win. I think it's slightly different now. I think we know we've got a good team that when we turn it on, we can not only beat teams, but we can give them a wee bit of pace in it if we want to. So I think there's an underlying belief in the squad that can recover from setbacks like Sunday. I really do. And Alex is right. We do owe Kilmarnock are firing all cylinders. Or even in Saturday, I've seen their highlights and they seem to be going great guns. But we should be beating them. And if we play to our capabilities, we will. What does still kind of worry me is what we touched upon earlier, the fact that we're just a touch predictable in terms of formation, and we'll probably see the same kind of thing happen on Saturday, where they'll play maybe 5 across the middle. And it just does make it a touch harder for us if the likes of Josh or other players don't turn up. So, I touched on this in the last pod. There is a bit of resilience now, not only in the squad but in the support. You see it in the attendances. You feel it in the away games that we're far more able to bounce back for setbacks, which were always going to happen, right? But we're far better and more able and more confident at coming back for things now than we were before, because I think we knew that the team just wasn't right. Whereas now, I think we know that the team is progressing, getting better, and has a lot of promise that should bode well for the future.
Now, just before we finish up for tonight, over the weekend there's the usual round of politicians. So Patrick Harvey of the SNP the Green Party, was getting on his high horse, as people tend to do, because Old Firm weekends give people who don't like us the opportunity to get tore into us, and of course they don't really need any second invitation to do so. But what kind of annoyed me was that after the usual rush of condemnation of Rangers fans for sins that were imagined, because plenty of it was made up, and the thing like the Sinclair incident as well, where it was deserved, but Russell Martin, footage emerges of Russell Martin being abused in a sectarian manner by Celtic supporters as he was out shopping. Now, first of all, regardless of football allegiance, if you're the type of person who just walks up and abuses a total stranger because he plays for a different football team, you are a cunt, right? And there's no ifs, ands or buts to that. That is who you are. If you walk up to a guy who's just out shopping and you start on him, then you need to take a look at your life. But what pissed me off, Andy, was the fact that had this happened the other way round, and we saw this over the weekend, that it's, into the papers, politicians are out talking about it, it's being used to further points about how Rangers fans should be punished in ever more elaborate fashions. When it happens the other way round, silence, and Rangers fans have to actually go to the papers and say, right, will you cover this, and basically have to demand, make enough noise that they do, it pisses me off something chronic.
Yeah. No, there definitely seems to be a proclivity for politicians in this country to open their mouth when it suits. And it's not to condemn Celtic supporters and their actions. I think if we go back to the game at Parkhead and the effigies and all that kind of stuff, and repeated banners with the word Hun on it and everything else, it just passes by without comment. They either speak up for everything or nothing at all. There's part of me thinks that really we should just ignore these idiots and let it ride, because the papers, and we've spoken about it in the past, David, they sensationalise and they create a sectarian industry, sectarianism industry, I should say, and they add fuel to the fire. Now, what happened to Sinclair's a disgrace. Doesn't matter who you support, you shouldn't be doing that. And likewise with Russell Martin, that's a disgrace. And you're spot on. If you're the kind of person that acts like that, then you're not worth talking about. But there is a responsibility on the part of the people that have got power, the politicians. They seem fit to speak up about anything to do with us, but sadly false silent when it's anything to do with overt terrorism support or implicit terrorism support. It just washes off them. So I don't know how you change that, because that's not something you change overnight. All I can say is if you vote for them, you reap what you sow. So that's my wee soapbox for tonight.
Alex?
I think we're the easier target for various reasons that many of which we've spoken about on this before. Can I just take a second, by the way, very, very briefly? When David was going through this earlier, he used the line, or the Scott Sinclair thing, which was deserved. Just to clear up to any of you people who have been frothing at the mouth ever since, he's not saying Scott Sinclair deserved it. He's saying the coverage was deserved.
Yes, absolutely. No, Scott Sinclair did not deserve that abuse. 100%. Let me make that very clear. Just
when you said that,
the coverage of it was deserved. Yes, absolutely. Yes. And that's my point, Alex. That's my point. I don't want them not to cover stuff like that, because I'm not saying, well, it's a Rangers fan, you shouldn't mention it. I'm saying that, yes, mention it, but then when the exact same thing happens to a Rangers player, it should get the same level of coverage.
It should, yes. As I say, we seem to be the kind of easier target. I actually think one of the bigger reasons for that is that Celtic fans are certainly, it seems to be a bigger number of them, share a political and political and social mindset. I don't mean to sound elitist or anything like that, but you can imagine you could walk into any place with Celtic supporters and 90% of the people in there are going to have voted yes for Scottish independence. They're going to be SNP or Labour. And the Rangers fans are a good bit more diverse, I think, with that. We're given the impression that we're not, but I think we are. I think we are. So we're a wee bit an easier target, because you can have a go at us and you'll get full support from a larger block of people who will just, not blindly, but it's just what they do. Whereas the other way around, Rangers fans end up arguing with each other more than anybody else.
We're a broader church, definitely. There is much more of a groupthink goes on there, and there's much more identity politics goes on in the Celtic support than goes on with us, because you're right, and that I think pisses me off. That was one of the reasons I started the pod, was that the representation of us is a falsehood, and you saw that with complaints about certain images about Rangers far right, and I'm like, how the fuck do you know their politics? But it's basically because you have decided, they are Rangers fans, ergo they must think this, whereas we know that that's bollocks, and that the Rangers fans is a very broad church politically in terms of their social beliefs.
There's an added backdrop here, and the offensive behaviour bill is obviously on its death throes. And the likes of Harvey and Mary Hunter, they would quite happily see it retained. And the way they want to see it retained is by highlighting things that suit their agenda. And that's where we come into it, because it's only things that we do that would suit their agenda for maintaining the offensive behaviour bill. So we've kind of passed through the looking glass a long time ago with this, because you had an offensive behaviour bill that was brought in and championed and pushed by the usual suspects, basically to hurt us, as we all know. And then when it turns out that it actually hurts them as much, if not more, in terms of the songs we're choosing to sing that were deemed political at one time, and they're not at all, they've actually managed to mobilise and get the thing fucking booted out now. So it just shows you where the influence and the power that can be called upon, not by us. Because they've managed to bring the bill in, have it tested, turned and say, we don't like this now, let's get rid of it, and then useful idiots like James Kelly will do it on their behalf. So there's a huge backdrop at the back of it, and that's where Harvey and Hunter come in and use us again as a political football to further what they would want to see.
Yeah, maybe we need to unite behind one political party, and maybe we could start it, the Rangers podcast party, because what we would need would be a charismatic leader, and I'm right here, you know. Fuck no, leader. I said, you know, I'm hardly going to send Robin out when Batman's sitting in the cave. But you know, just so long as they understand that I don't usually get up to about 12. I don't like leaving the house, and I'm not working weekends. So long as all that's fine, then I'm quite happy to run Scotland. Okie doke, folks. Well, as always, let us know what you think. You can get in touch with us on social media. On Twitter, we'll just go through this quite quickly. I am at IBroxRocks. Alex is?
At Strider80.
Couldn't remember there for a minute, could you?
Oh, I've got a bit fear phone now.
And you can also read more of Alex's thoughts. Tell them where they can find your blogs, Alex.
rangersnews.uk or fourladshadadream.wordpress.com.
And Andy, they can find you at
Bob McPhail.
And could you please tell the punters who maybe don't go on Twitter but heard the story a few weeks ago about your disgraceful loss of the medal given to you by Bob McPhail that did have a happy postscript?
It did, because my dear old mammy emptied her house upside down and found it.
Fantastic. Now, when you giving me it?
Never.
Well, what? I don't see why. Yeah, you didn't fucking think you had it for. I will at least look after it.
No.
A compelling argument, but just a straight refusal. Okay, though, I'd like to thank our executive producers in London, Mr. Mike Lee and Mr. Paul Myers. Paul's a West Ham fan, incidentally, so I'm looking forward to hearing what went on Saturday. That one. We got a bad press, lads, but fuck's sake. It's we I don't think we would do it. Can you imagine if we did that? By the way, we're talking about politics in Scotland. Oh my God, the noise that would have happened this week. And I'd like to thank our... Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, we obviously don't have Scott anymore for this, but I think if we had a Sporting Integrity Award this week, the guy that owns PAOK in Greece that came on the park with a gun because the goal got overruled by VAR, that's got to be a winner. But what I found beautiful was there was a line that someone made right after that. If that had happened in America, footballers would be being played with guns in their shin pads, concealed weapons and shit. That's the way to deal with that, supposedly.
Yeah, the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun would be to have a good chairman with a gun. Would seem to be the NRA position on it. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, who are Maitland and Co. Criminal Defence and Road Traffic Law. Find out more information on them at maitlandandco.net, and that's maitlandandco.net for all your criminal defence needs. And the full advert with all that information will be on at the end of the music, and obviously you heard it at the start. Thank you very much to my two guests this evening, the ever wonderful Mr. Andy McGowan.
Pleasure, David.
The always brilliant Mr. Alex Staff.
Thank you, gentlemen. Always a pleasure.
My name's David Edgar. I have enjoyed talking to you. I will be back again on Thursday. Remember, though, if you want to hear more from us, more from these two, more from everyone else on the pod, just visit us at our Patreon site, which is patreon.com/Heart and Hand, where you will get 3 shows all about the Gers every day. And people seem to like it. So come along and see us, only $1.99 per month. But if not, we'll be back on Thursday with a Kilmarnock preview. Till then, thank you for listening. And remember, we've lost to them before. We'll probably lose to them again, but we're coming. They fucking know it, and we are the people. Take care. Bye.
Today's show is brought to you by Maitland & Co. Solicitors and Notaries. Now, of course, we hope that you never need to avail yourselves of legal services, but unfortunately life isn't like that. And Maitland & Co. are specialists in criminal defence and road traffic law, and they come highly recommended from heart and hand. They cover all over Scotland and they deal with all types of criminal cases, including road traffic law. They appear in Justice of the Peace, Sheriff and High Courts. They are on call 24/7 because unfortunately you're never going to know when you're going to need a lawyer, and they are available 24/7 for police station interviews, prison visits. Legal aid is available, competitive rates if applicant is not eligible for legal aid, and first interview is free. Maitland & Co. have represented fans charged under the offensive behaviour at football legislation. So, if you ever need legal counsel, the best place to go is Maitland & Co. Get in touch with them at info@maitlandandco.net. That's info@maitland, Maitland and co.net. 07714 615 845. That's info@maitlandandco.net. 07714 615 845 for all your criminal defence needs.